Hello, hello. This video is for Marika. This is Papa Dog and I together. He is on a higher level than I am. He is on the angel level, and I am on the indigo level. And yes, but you are gorgeous. And I'm making you a meditation video now. I don't have my camera stand yet. I'm gonna be looking for the perfect camera stand box tomorrow in the garage, or maybe tonight. And I'm gonna make an artwork out of it, and I'm gonna also make this into my camera stand. Paul has boxes for garden tools that have specific shapes, that have like shelf type of indentations where I can put this tablet in, and then I can have the tablet like on like 1.50 meters high or something, and that would be much better for filming meditation on a chair. Now I'm sitting on this cushion here that I have here for Papa Dog to step on. That would be better to do this kind of stuff also for filming my art process and so on. So anyway, making a video for you meditating, and I have to hold the camera. So now, where do I put the camera? So how do I do this? I guess I'm gonna put the camera over here, and that way it can film me meditating. I don't know how this is gonna work. So, sort of in an angle or something. So, but it's it's all not perfect. I need that camera stand desperately. So anyway, so this way I have my hands free and we can meditate together. This is kind of like an odd angle, but it's okay. Anyway, you sit straight on either a cushion or also soft floor. You can cross your legs, or you can have the legs straightened, whatever works for you. But what matters is that the shoulders are relaxed and the back is straight, and particularly here, this part of the spinal cord, where the spinal cord goes into the skull, that is usually not relaxed in most people. And I know that from my own personal experience. So that part always gets, and that part also usually is kind of like hanging like this. Like when we're on the computer, kind of like hunch forward, and then this part is usually kind of like hanging like this. And we should arch this. We should breathe in deeply and make sure to arch this a whole lot during the day, or let the head like this here, let the head hang all the way down, and actually let the entire upper body and the head all the way make this arch where the chin actually touches your your upper chest part here. So do this a lot. Then breathe in as you straighten it, and make sure it stays straightened and not hanging back in kind of like a chicken or something, but keep it straightened when you breathe in like this here. Like, I don't know, show it in the profile. Yes, I have a double chin, so like it. And then keep, if you can, I can't do it because I'm talking, but if you, when you do this, Hold the breath for just a few moments, as long as you can, in this arched position. And as you breathe out, you arch it forward and you relax it into the arched position. So you do that quite a lot, and repeat this like 10 times or so. And when you breathe in, make sure that the air gets really circulated into your entire upper body, and particularly going as if, imagine as if the air is going through your abdomen. We say that in words. It's really technologically not really the case, because the lungs don't go all the way into the abdomen. But the deeper you can breathe in and envision to have the air go through the abdomen, the deeper the air will permeate into the lower parts of the lungs, which is very, very important. It's extremely important. There are cases of people who breathe very shallow, and there have been cases where people had to have the lower parts of their lungs removed because it became morbid. It actually decayed because they didn't use the lower parts of their lungs, and that's very, very dangerous when you don't use the lower parts of your lungs and only breathe like really shallow. And the people who are in a lot of fear have that tendency, and particularly if the fear is unconscious, then the people get into the habit of breathing very shallow and using only the upper parts of the lungs. Very, very, very dangerous actually to do. No physician would ever tell you this, because they're not trained in this. They're not informed about it. They're not informed about just daily rituals of natural healing, So that could prevent something serious like this. Definitely, that does prevent something like that from happening. So now finally yoga meditation is becoming more widely known, and you will probably find a doctor who will recommend that, but they most likely don't know these particular details about how important the particular ways of breathing are for our entire anatomy, even for our posture, for our spinal cord, for the lungs, for the air in the lungs, for the waste that gets flushed out of the lungs and out of the organs. The body is in a constant, perpetual maintenance situation. So there's oxygen going into every single niche, cranny, material, tissue, capillary, and gets and flushes out the toxins out of all the cells, including the skin cells, the organ cells, and so on.
Is he upstairs with you?
Yes, he is.
I filled the jacuzzi.
Okay.
And I filtered the water in it.
Okay, thank
Looks
you.
like the new filters I bought work real good. The water
Okay,
looks
thank you.
real clean.
I'm making a video. So, breathing, very, very, very important. And Thich Nhat Hanh always talks about this in his books. He says that nothing is as important as being very conscious about the way we breathe. So we have to do this with, always be conscious about creating this arch so that the discs in here don't get pinched. We want to make sure that the discs, they have space, and the nerves that are in there have space, and any kind of debris or any kind of toxins that always get always being flooded into the entire body because of the the arteries and the veins and the capillaries bringing all of any kind of stuff into our body. That's why it is so important that we live in an environment that is clean, where we breathe clean air and where we eat clean food. Very, very, very extremely important to eat whole, clean food that's free from pesticides, organically grown, and possibly self-grown. That's the best, because then you don't use any kind of pest control, so you don't, when you do composting, there is no pest control necessary. When you don't have a monoculture in your garden, when you have a permaculture in your garden, where there's a diversity of native plants that are native to your particular area, whether you live at the equator or in the Arctic Circle or somewhere in between or in Australia. So there's all these native plants that are adapted to the particular regions, you know, to either the maritime regions or the desert regions, and very adapted to the particular weather, to rain, to drought, to a specific soil type that you have. So that's why I recommend to people, stick with your natural native plants. And you have all kinds of different plants. Every single person, wherever they live, they have a very large variety, except, if you live on an ice glacier, in Antarctica or in the Arctic Circle. I'm talking about on land where you have soil, you have a diversity even in the very northern regions or in the very southern regions where it's cold. You have a very wide variety of plants. The closer you're to the equator, the wider the variety of plants you have, and the wider you have such an extreme abundance, if you live at the equator, of not just food plants, but plants that are there for any kind of purpose, including repelling pest insects that will eat your food plants, for example. You have, if you mix them in, if you have a variety of plants, not a monoculture. A monoculture is, have 1 acre or several or 100 acres or thousands of acres, just one type of plant, which is what's happening with Monsanto and the I don't call it modern, but I call it commerce agriculture, because I don't find it modern. It is, people called it modern because it shifted to that somewhere in the 50s, and people thought it was super great and progressive and fed a lot of people, but it has a whole host of negative side effects. So we want to get away from monoculture. Okay, we want to get away from soil depletion. We want to do composting, put the nutrients back into the soil, have a natural biodynamic living cycle. And if you can grow your own food, there's a lot of people, amazing people like John Kohler on YouTube who live holistically in a complete natural life cycle, and he explains it very wonderfully. Those videos are wonderful. How you grow your own food plants and any kind of plants, medicinal plants. There are at least 100 medicinal plants for every single ailment or problem or health problem or issue, and everywhere on this planet. But this information is being suppressed because of greed, so of mass production and pharmaceutical industry and so on. So, I recommend to people to grow your own food plants, your own flowers, your own shrubs, your own medicinal plants. Very, very important. And take in all these nutrients into your body and have less toxins to that the body needs to flush out, and that the liver has to process and flush out of the system, and the gallbladder has to work overtime with the food we eat. And I made a real commitment now for myself. I'm absolutely crystal clear now, because I have been falling back on candy because I was addicted to it like a drug addict. And candy can make people addicted, just like a junkie. So it's so incredibly seductive. You go into a store and then it brings up all these, it fires neurons and it fires endorphins just thinking about the candy and stuff like this. But we can train our bodies to rethink. We can train our systems to want the good stuff instead of the bad stuff, because candy is not good for you. White sugar is not good for you. Chocolate is not good for you. I don't care what some article says, brought to you by ExxonMobil and the candy industry. I don't care what someone says comes this new research paper, whatever. Yes, it comes just in time for Valentine's, for example, And then it says chocolate is good for you. Just in time, just around the time of early February, it comes out, some article would come out, and you wonder, oh, what a coincidence. But it's not a coincidence, because this was all arranged and paid and already pre-planned and everything, so that people go out and buy a whole bunch of chocolate thinking it's good for them. And it's not, okay? White sugar is toxic. White flour is really bad for you. It's empty. It doesn't have any nutrients. It's actually bad for the body. And too much salt, I don't eat any salt at all, because there's salt in plants already naturally, that we don't need that whole loads of salt, okay? And if I was ever to put salt on, like for example, dry popped popcorn, I'd sometimes put spices on it. So I like to put just a little bit of pink Tibetan salt on it, because that's whole salt, okay, that has been mined, that from sedimentations of oceans that are like 2 billion years old or something. So, and it has a whole range of nutrients in it, and in its whole form. You want to eat stuff in its whole form, not something that had been chemically treated, where certain substances have been isolated out of it or something. So Rudolf Steiner talks about this in his books. It's very, very important that we eat whole foods and that we feed our bodies with nutrients. But in a meditation like this, which is that this is very, very important, the meditation. It's even more important than, I would say, how we think, how we eat, and how we think is, of course, that is what the meditation is all about. So breathing, detoxing through letting go, through accepting that what is, breathing in, holding the breath, and slowly breathing out through the abdomen and back in through the abdomen. Arching the neck, breathing out. Or you can also sit completely straight and keep the spinal cord just completely straight, and imagine you are pulling up your head into the air. But I always like to keep my neck a little bit arched while I sit, to relieve all of these different discs that are in there and the nerve endings. And this process eliminates toxins from the system. It's very important. And just allow whatever there is, whatever feelings come up, so if negative thoughts come up, just allow that and don't resist it. Don't feverishly try to figure out how to stop them. And I catch myself doing this, so I'm speaking from my own experience. I know everyone does that. So I need to let all of this go and not get fixated on any result or any outcome or any expectations that you have or that other people have, particularly what that other people have. You want to completely let go of that. And just love yourself, love your body. Your body is a miraculous healing system. It's an amazing powerhouse of detoxification processes and assimilation processes and nutrient intake. It's a constant cycling and recycling and cycling out and bringing new oxygen in and new nutrients. And water, very important to drink a lot of water all the time, and teas, herbal teas with pure water. I love Pellegrino, I love Perrier, I love those amazing mineral springs in Germany that they have. I love Crystal Geyser, which comes from the United States. I think it comes from Mount Shasta, and it's a wonderful area. So I love drinking pure water that comes out of the earth, and so a lot of stuff is polluted nowadays because of corruption, but it's still really amazing. The water that comes straight out of the earth is still very, very amazing too. drink and use for cooking and for making tea with and stuff. So yeah, that is my meditation video so far. And it's for all of you, of course, you know. And if you have any question, any of you, ask me any question and I will answer. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.